Conor Benn walks through Samuel Vargas in one round. Very impressive performance. Both guys came out at the opening bell, and we knew Sammy Vargas wasn't going to back down because that's the way he fights. He's a front foot guy. And Conor Benn, of course, he can box, but he can also slug, and that's what he likes to do. He's very much a chip off the old block. Just like his dad, he's a very fiery, intense character. You can see it in his eyes. And both guys came out in the first few seconds, feinting, looking to draw a lead. Conor Benn, with the longer arms and the faster hands, he was able to start flashing a jab and also pot-shotting at long range. He managed to catch Sammy Vargas with a right hand. Sammy Vargas' left was slightly low. Very good hand speed by Conor Benn, being able to get the shot in there because, again, it's not like Sammy Vargas' left hand was particularly low. Conor Benn just found a nice spot to slot the punch through. And that started a chain of events that led to Sammy Vargas being pinned against the ropes, and Conor Benn was just unloading all sorts of shots on him. So it was impressive the way he put his hands together. He hit Sammy Vargas with hooks, uppercuts, straight shots, all sorts. As I said, had him pinned up against the ropes. He didn't actually go down. He was getting his head rocked about a little bit. The referee jumped in and stopped the fight. Now, I think the stoppage was premature. Look, we all picked Conor Benn to win the fight, and I certainly didn't see anything in that first round that would suggest that we would have been wrong had the referee not stopped it there. I'm sure we can all agree that Conor Benn still would have won. But that type of stoppage is far too common for my liking in British boxing. Because this wasn't a fight where Sammy Vargas had been 5-6 rounds and he'd been getting battered the whole time. No, this was the first round. Sammy Vargas has been in there with some very, very good fighters. Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, Amir Khan, and others over the years. He's an experienced guy. So to just stop the fight like that without giving him at least a chance to maybe go down, take a knee, just a few seconds longer, 10 seconds. It's only the first round. So I did not like the stoppage at all. Obviously, again, I'm not saying Sammy Vargas would have won, but just to emphasize my point, if that referee had been in there when Conor Benn's dad, Nigel Benn, fought Gerald McClellan, Nigel Benn would have been knocked out or stopped by the referee after about 30 seconds of that fight. It would have been over. Nigel Benn got knocked out the ring. That ref would have jumped in and stopped it. He would have never let it go on. Now, obviously, that fight ended in tragedy. But the point I'm making here is fighters are able to come back from situations like that. And again, not to say that Sammy Vargas would have done, but it's a bad habit. Let's just put it that way. It's a worrying trend when you see those kind of stoppages. They've come to be known as matchroom stoppages over the years. I don't want to see stoppages like that. And I'm not somebody that likes to see fights go on and on. No. I've seen plenty of tragedies in the ring and I don't want to see any more. But generally, tragedies happen after a long fight where a guy's taken a lot of punishment. Not in the first round. So, yeah, I just don't like the habit that referees have in the UK and particularly on matchroom shows of jumping in as soon as the opponent is in a little bit of trouble. It doesn't happen all the time, but it certainly happens regularly enough for it to be a thing that people talk about. With that aside, it was a very impressive performance by Conor Benn. He has improved a lot. He was very hype after the fight, calling out Amir Khan, saying that he's the most improved fighter in the world. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but he's certainly improved a lot. And he does have some talent there. You know, he's got nice hand speed. The way he moves, very reminiscent of his dad. He's a smaller fighter than his dad, so maybe he has a bit more boxing ability, maybe a higher ceiling when it comes to his boxing because of the fact he's a bit more skillful and stuff like that. But as I said in a previous video, Nigel Benn could box. I know recently you said I couldn't box. No, he could box. I watched plenty of Nigel Benn's fights in his prime, and he could box. Not to say he was Sugar Ray Leonard or anything, but he could box. In fact, if you go and type into YouTube, Nigel Benn, Roberto Duran, you'll see Nigel Benn sparring Roberto Duran, and he was boxing real nice in that sparring session. But it's possible that Conor Benn, being a smaller guy with his extra speed and maybe a bit more coordination than his dad, will turn out to be a better boxer. Maybe not necessarily a better fighter, that remains to be seen, but possibly a better boxer, a better stick and move artist. So, very impressive performance. Great, hand speed. He showed power there. He managed to get the guy out much earlier than Errol Spence, Ortiz, Garcia, Amir Khan, and so on. Now, obviously, he's just coming off a stoppage loss, and he was down. In retrospect, he was down early against Amir Khan. Okay? I think he was down in the second or third round, something like that. So it's not like this is a fighter who's never touched the canvas early. He has. But be that as it may, when you look at the guys who have beaten Vargas before, vast experience. Conor Benn didn't have that level of experience. So we have to give him, even though Vargas might be at the end of the road, even though it was a premature stoppage, we have to give him a lot of credit for what he went in there and did. So hats off to Conor Benn. Excellent performance. I'd like to see the Amir Khan fight. I think that's the logical next step. And I'm glad Conor Benn's calling him out. Hopefully, Amir Khan can stop getting his nails done or whatever he's doing and step up and fight Conor Benn. I know Amir Khan finally is talking about fighting Kell Brook. I have a feeling, I hope I'm wrong, that Khan might look at Conor Benn the same way he looked at Kell Brook for so many years. Like a problem that he doesn't need. Look, Khan has fought some tremendous fighters over the years. The best win in Khan's career is probably that win over Marcus Maidana, which was a great win, when you look back in retrospect. But Khan, when it came to Kell Brook, clearly always felt as though that is a risk that doesn't have a big enough reward attached to it. And not just a financial reward, but a reward in terms of legacy, resume. That's why he decided to fight Canelo, but continued to duck Brook, because there was far more upside if he managed to beat Canelo. I'm talking about in his mind. With Conor Benn, what does he gain if he beats him? If he loses to Conor Benn, it's the end for Amir Khan. And it's probably the end for Amir Khan anyway. But again, I'm talking about from the perspective of Amir Khan in his head. What do you think he's thinking? He doesn't want to lose to a young, up-and-coming guy like Conor Benn. But he just saw Kell Brook get stopped by Terence Crawford earlier than he got stopped by Crawford, right? So he's probably thinking, okay, I can take Brook now. Let me go and do that fight. Whereas with Conor Benn, young up-and-coming guy, got his reflexes fresh, punching hard, improving with every fight. Not to say that Khan has no chance against Conor Benn. Not at all. Khan can box. He would be by far and away the best boxer that Conor Benn has ever fought. But Khan could be completely shot by this point. He's been very inactive, as we know. He had that fight out in Saudi Arabia. That was the last time I saw him, and that was an absolute joke of a fight against, was it Billy Dibb, who he fought? That was a joke. So Khan hasn't really had a proper fight for several years. He might be absolutely awful at this point. In which case, maybe Conor Benn will just run straight through him. We'll see. But I think it's an intriguing fight. And for Conor Benn's profile, because the Sky team were talking about, who's going to be the next pay-per-view star and all this kind. In fact, was it the Sky team? Or was it Kugan Cassius talking to Eddie Hearn? It might have been Kugan Cassius talking to Eddie Hearn. But either way, they're talking about Conor Benn maybe becoming a pay-per-view star, right? If that is, surely that is the direction they want to go, obviously, but the Amir Khan fight makes perfect sense since that's the plan, because Khan is a big name. If Conor Benn goes in there, beats Khan, bam. I mean, people already know the Benn name from Nigel Benn. Certainly people of my generation, but the younger generation, they might not know Nigel Benn, right? But they know Amir Khan. So Conor Benn goes in there and Khan's on television getting his nails done and Meet the Khans and all that kind of stuff, reality TV. Benn goes in there, smashes Amir Khan to pieces. His name's up in lights. And perhaps he could be the next star of British boxing, the next pay-per-view guy. You know, we'll see. But bottom line is, hats off to Conor Benn. He put in a great performance against Sammy Vargas. Nobody's ever stopped him in the first round before. Again, for me, premature stoppage, they should have let it go on for at least another 10 seconds, at least get a knockdown out of it. But, you know, it was what it was. I'm sure we can all agree Conor Benn was going to win anyway. So, fantastic performance. Hats off to him. And hopefully the Amir Khan fight comes off next. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm out. Come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide range of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&A sessions, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got a Discord server where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. There's no contract, no commitment, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.